Welcome back to another episode of the Brew and Ink podcast. All right, and welcome back to another Brew and Ink podcast. How are you guys doing today? How are you doing, Britt?
I'm doing amazing. I'm a little tired.
Yeah?
Been a busy week, although that seems normal now.
Yeah. But at least we're at our same bat time, same bat channel as normal.
We are. But I'm doing amazing. It's been a great week.
Good. It's been a good weekend.
Yes,
I can't even believe it's the end of the weekend already.
I can't believe it's October.
I can't believe we wrote at some point in time throughout this
Thank
weekend.
you. I'm the same way. I actually got some writing done on Thursday.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday night and Thursday.
Yeah.
Like I said, one of my busiest weeks at work. Like this is one of my busiest weeks. Like 2 of the top 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This is one of the busiest ones. And I actually got writing done.
Ooh,
I didn't even know how that happened. So I think I'm getting more into the groove of writing again.
You know what else is really great?
What's that?
Have you noticed some of the decor in the area?
Oh yeah, you got the spiders outside. I saw the spiders.
Yes, it is fall time here in Georgia.
Fall time, and it actually feels like fall.
Feels
today.
like fall. Yeah, today and yesterday felt like fall, and that means our studio for now is going to be a nice temperature because it's not exactly temperature controlled in here.
That's right.
So,
but that's okay.
Yeah, I love it.
For the next couple of months, we'll just we might wear sweaters.
We're going to wear some extra layers. But right now, it's perfect. Anyways, speaking of perfect, we've got some stories to share with our faithful listeners.
That was a great segue.
Yes, I'm excited. I really like the... did you have a chance to read through the Divergent pack?
I haven't yet.
Okay, I took it to the next level.
Good.
But it was great. It's really gonna have that choose your own adventure feel to it at the end.
I'm so glad. That's great.
Yeah, and then yours, I love it. We're going to get to that one. But first, we got our topic. We are going to talk about tropes for writing, and of course, we're probably going to end up talking about movies and books and things like that, TV shows. But, what are the benefits of tropes? What can be useful out of a trope? Also, why would you want to avoid tropes, and when would you want to use a trope?
Right.
What is a trope?
Yeah, let's start there. What is a trope? Did you have a definition for us?
Trope can be a metaphor, a simile, or an example of a personification, verbal irony, and more.
Yeah, almost a cliche, but a trope is some sort of literary or story device that's really common.
I tend to call them a crutch.
They can be crutches. Yeah. And I think that it's important to make the distinction. I don't know if we need to do it right off the bat, but it's important to make the distinction that a trope is different than a cliche.
Yes.
Right? So you can have a trope and it not be a cliche.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I think we need to start talking about some of these things because everybody uses tropes.
Right.
Everybody uses them.
Every story has been told.
Every story has been told, right? There's 3 main or whoever the guy writing that book, talked about there's only 3 stories that have ever been told,
Yeah.
But the thing is, you haven't written it and I haven't written it. And how do we make these things original?
Right.
And not cliche, right? Not so done that we all know what's going to happen. I'll give you an example of cliche.
Okay.
And I don't know why I'm using this example because I am not a wrestling fan. Okay. But growing up in Georgia, I knew a lot of people who were wrestling fans.
Yes, that does happen down here.
and when I was younger, I'm kind of showing my age just a little bit, but when I was younger, Hulk Hogan was the guy. I mean, he was like the biggest star, right? And every one of his fights was the same. Like at some point, they figured out the script. And even though the moves might have been different, but the script was always the same. He was going to almost lose.
Yep.
And something was going to happen.
Grab that rope.
He's going to grab that rope. And something was going to happen that was going to make him really mad.
Yep.
And then he was unstoppable.
Right.
And then he was going to do his signature move. And everyone cheered and thought that's what they were waiting on.
Yep.
He
was the Hulk Hogan.
He was the Hulk Hogan. So So let's go through some examples of tropes before we get into good or bad and how they can be used. All right. So bad guys wear black.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Very simple. There's a comic relief character.
Right. I mean, you got to have the slapstick character that...
Right? How many Disney movies
sidekick.
Can you just predict?
Right.
Oh.
Olaf.
Right.
Sebastian.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're going to include that character. They're going to merchandise the toy.
Yep.
Give it a little song. Whatever.
And then there's always, like, the reluctant hero.
The reluctant hero. Very good.
Yeah. Where he doesn't want to be the hero. He has something else in mind.
A reluctant hero is more like Han Solo. He would be fine just living his life, doing whatever he does, and yet he's been forced into this situation. John Wick is the ultimate reluctant hero.
Right. He just wants to live at home with his dog.
Yeah. All right.
So those are a few examples of kind of what can be used throughout a storyline or a plot. Some other ones are like when you have lovers separated by social status or something like that. So it's not necessarily a significant or specific character, but kind of a characters set in this setting.
Yeah.
And then from there, you get to make your characters unique, and you get to make the situation unique. But the trope overall is kind of the blanket of the backdrop, or the blanket of the backstory,
or the relationship.
There's
the love triangle, right? There's the, like you said, there's the love separated by a class. There's the forbidden love of which goes from everywhere from affairs to Romeo and Juliet kind of trope, know. But I think tropes are amazing because they work for a reason. They have become common for a reason.
You could almost say they're expected by the like a normal viewer or even a writer. If you see a setup of a trope, then you're almost expectant of what's to come next or what's to come down the line. Right. And then if it somehow veers away from that, you're almost disappointed, or you go, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So for example, like you and I both write fantasy.
Yeah.
And there are a couple tropes in fantasy.
Right.
Or a lot of tropes in fantasy, right? There's the young orphan who dreams of a different life.
Yeah.
Right? There's prophecies. There's the wise mentor.
Right. There's some level of magic.
There's some level of magic. I mean, so all of these things...
Elves have pointy ears.
Right? But all of these things are almost expected.
Right.
So you said it before, like in certain genres, certain tropes are expected. And because if you go way off script with some of these tropes, you're not going to sell books. You're not always going to watch the movie.
Right.
The trick is, how do you put these things in and do them in a unique way? That's the trick.
Yeah.
The trick is, how do you have the young farm boy? George Lucas put him on a desert world, and he farmed water.
Moisture, yeah.
Right? He was a moisture farmer. See what I mean? Like, he switched it up.
Yep.
But it was still the basic idea.
Yeah.
And so
it wasn't cliche.
Wasn't cliche, right? Yeah. It had been done in a sense. I'm thinking of The Princess Bride as another one. Like when you mentioned, people falling in love across social class.
Yeah. Wesley.
She falls in love with the stable boy. It's a trope. But they put a twist on it. He said, I love you by saying,
as you wish.
As you wish, right? We can all quote the movie. Like, it's enough of a twist that it worked. And they put it in context, especially in the movie, in context of the grandfather reading this fantasy story. So you almost expect some of these tropes, right? Because he's reading it to his, the grandson. And so the point is that to use tropes, everyone's going to have to use them. Because if you just completely go off script,
Yeah.
People are going to be like, what? This isn't even fantasy, or this
Right.
isn't romance, or this isn't. So they expect some of these things, but a reader's going to want something unique enough
Yeah.
that they go, oh, well, that's clever, or that's a little different. And I think that's the strength and the weakness of a trope.
Yeah. And sometimes, like when I refer to them or call them a crutch, it's not so much in a way that it's because you've got a broken leg as a writer, or a hindrance. But as a writer, once you understand tropes, or once you kind of understand how to build a story, then as you're writing and you get to a point where you're either stuck or you go, who is this character? What is his purpose? I've introduced him in the scene, but what is he going to do? You can start thinking through what you've written so far in the story and what would be expected in that style of story, and go, you know what? I don't have the sage in my fantasy story yet. This would actually be a really good place to introduce that character, to write it into a good storyline, a good flow. And then as you go back and edit, you can even then start shifting around the timing of everything so that it doesn't feel so perfectly laid out, maybe like every trope is coming at you, like one trope per chapter or something. Like if you can figure out how to layer them all together, then it seems like a genuine story.
Yeah. But you also have to think of how can you make a twist on the trope, right? How can you say, like we just talked about, the wise mentor?
Yeah.
Like, what if you made the wise mentor a child?
Right.
Like what
or a giant turtle island,
or
from a never-ending story,
right, or something. Yeah. Like you put a little twist on it.
Yeah.
Like really, this person is 4,000 years old, but he or she looks like they're 8 or something. Like you put a little twist on things, and it's still the same idea,
right?
But you're putting enough of a twist on it to make people interested.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people get into cliches. And tropes can be bad, is if you think, well, I gotta have a wise character, gotta have white hair, gotta have a long white beard, dress in robes. I mean, at some point you're like, okay, that's Dumbledore, that's Gandalf, that's how many ever. Like at some point that's been done.
Because a cliche is a trope that's used poorly.
Right.
That's what makes it cliche. Trope is just a basic building block of a story, of a story arc, story type. But it becomes cliche when it's just done poorly, or you're just a direct copycat of something else. But in contrast, like tropes themselves are a vital part of the narrative prose or the narrative process. I know your kids play The Legend of Zelda. The newest one.
Into the Wild or something?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild,
yeah. And one of the characters in there, which is kind of like the sage character, she upgrades all your technology and kind of fills you in on the backstory and the history. Well, she is supposed to be like 1,000 years old, basically, but she looks like a young child. You made me think of this when you were talking about it earlier, but it's because she figured out how to reverse her aging. But it was actually a part of a failed experiment. She wasn't trying to become that young.
Right.
She was just, but it's within that world of Zelda, it's very campy and cartoonish, and so that sort of storyline fits really well, but it's different than what they've done before.
Yeah.
And so that's like kind of a good example of a trope that they have established throughout their Legend of Zelda series to expect, but just done in a different way.
Yeah. A good example, too, of some tropes that people expect, right? So I've been writing some fantasy romance in a series with some other authors, and we're going to be talking about that soon coming up. We're going to be announcing some of this as they come out. But romance has tropes. Just like fantasy has tropes, romance has tropes. There's the meet cute. There's the first meeting of these two people.
Yeah.
And every story is going to have to deal with this. There has to be the conflict between the two characters.
Right.
There has to be the discovering more about each other, and now they fall in love, right? There's been the misunderstanding. I mean, they all happen in every one of these romantic comedies or romances. And you have authors that write a romance a month. right? They just
more power to them,
right? They just put it out 40, 50,000 words. They just keep pumping these things out, and they make a great living at it. Mm-hmm. But the reason why they can do it is that they know what the audience expects.
Yep.
They know what the audience is looking for. Just like, I just saw Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
Like if he was just sitting around whining the whole movie, right? I'd be like, what the heck? Like I expect to see him jumping around and swinging and making wisecracks. Like there's certain things in a Spider-Man movie I'm going to expect. And if they do it well,
then it's a good movie.
Then it's a great movie. But if they just kind of throw it together and do it because it's just expected, then you can tell lazy writing when stuff like that happens.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what the last Spider-Man series sort of suffered from a little bit, was they were going too much into how can we make Spider-Man unique and different from what he's been before. And so they had him like skateboarding and other, things like that were, in a sense, not great writing for character development because it was so far outside of the normal Spider-Man tropes that a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah. Now, this discussion is related to our earlier discussion of mentor texts, of reading in the genre that you're going to write in. Because you should know what your readers are going to expect. Now, you can put little twists on them. You can take a different angle.
Right.
You can do all kinds of, you can play with them.
Yeah.
But when you go to an agent and you say, well, I want to do an epic fantasy, and the agent says, well, what do you read? Oh, I only read nonfiction self-help books. Right? I mean, then you don't know your audience. Like you don't know the audience that you're trying to reach. And so there's just some things you need to know if you're going to write in a certain genre.
Yeah.
And yes, you should make it unique, but this is all related to that. If you're reading a lot of epic fantasy, you're going to see all these tropes.
Yeah.
You're going to see things that are derivative, but you're going to see people do them in different ways. You're going to go, oh, he did it that way, or she did it that way.
And then you're going to find your way to either meld those ideas together and make it unique, or go, you know what, like have that because that's one of the best moments as a writer. And when you have that strike of inspiration like, oh, I've never seen it done that way before.
Yeah.
And then it starts unfolding in your mind, the world and the story, and you're like, yes, it's all based around this idea and this concept. But a lot of times that comes out of reading other people's work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree that making sure to read those other texts and those other books is definitely important to make sure that you're doing these tropes well and not cliche.
Right. But that you still have those expectations that readers are going to want. Because agents hate this.
Yeah.
When you go to an agent or a publisher, the reason why agents hate it is because they will never take it to a publisher. Right. When you go to an agent, you go, well, it's part fantasy and it's part literature, and it's part coming of age, and it's part this, and it's part... Now you're losing them.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing all these tropes in together, because an agent or a publisher, they're going to know, how am I going to sell this?
Yeah.
In a simple... Tell people this is simple. In one line, what is this book about? And if you start throwing in a whole bunch of different tropes...
Then they're like, how do I sell this? What audience am I...
What's the audience?
Yeah.
And I know that sounds really kind of cold and business-like, but that's just how people... are, and that's how we are as consumers. When I go to see John Wick, right, I'm not expecting some,
long drawn out love story.
Right, yeah. I'm not expecting a romance.
Yeah.
There's different tropes. Now, there can be romantic elements within that.
Right.
And there are, right, because of the death of his wife, and she gave him the dog. Yeah. But those are that's 5 minutes of the whole movie.
That gives you depth to his character.
Right.
Yeah.
That's giving you depth to his character.
That's not his goal.
That's right. His goal is to kill everyone.
Yes.
Right? In all of the movies.
Yes. Or like in sci-fi.
Yeah.
In most sci-fi, you're going to expect to deal with some sort of virtual reality or holographic technology. Something like that. But what is your spin on it? How are you making it unique? Or it's some sort of artificial intelligence, and what can you do with that idea or concept that isn't just doing what was done before in like Ender's Game or something,
right?
Or what was done in like Ready Player One or something like that. But how are you making it unique and not cliche?
Yeah.
And so, without further ado, we can jump into our story.
We should get into our story that deals with that. Now that was a good segue.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah,
I can see where you're going with that.
Well placed. So now we're going to jump into our story, Chapter 8 of the Singularity sci-fi adventure. And when we last left off, our character was sort of in dire straits. He had a
not the band.
Bad option. Yeah, he had a bad option and a worse option before him. And I don't know which one was which, but the one that got voted was the option to be arrested by the pirates. And our writer extraordinaire, Britt Mooney,
Booyah,
got to take on that task and now has for us the next section of the story. What did you title this section?
The Brig.
That's right. Chapter 8, The Brig. We're going to get into it. See you guys on the other side. Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you are interested in learning more about writing and how to become a writer, check out our syndication page, seriouswriter.com. They have articles, resources, classes, videos, and a podcast, the Brew and Ink Podcast. Again, check out seriouswriter.com. Thanks for listening.
Singularity, Chapter 8, The Brig. Crystal's hands became fists. You're a Fed? You destroyed our colony? The other colonists murmured with low, dangerous voices. I put up my hands. Wait now, I am, or I was, but I didn't destroy anything. We came here to save you. Right, Crystal said. I should have known when you were talking to that AI you were Fed. The crowd pushed closer, Crystal at the front, surrounding me, Nisha, and the armed pirates. The pirates looked as nervous as I felt, and they had guns. Nisha, I said, my ship was a Phoenix. If we had done this, there would be no one left. Our bomb would have fried all organic life. This was conventional ordnance. I whirled to face the rest of the crowd, scowls and grimaces back at me. Bulldogs did this. Some of you must have seen them. The people pressed in. They weren't listening. Look, why would I try to kill everyone and then come down and help? I said. Nisha just said there's a price on my head. That's because I tried to stop this. Visages of rage closed in. I lowered my head. I tried to stop it. Nisha watched me a moment, then said to the colonists, did anyone see the ships that bombed you? A man toward the back raised his hand. I did. They were bulldogs. I've seen them before, years ago. 3 others nodded their heads. Nisha sighed. We shot down a Phoenix for sure. She glared at me. The Fed reward doesn't prove anything. You could have done something else. Check on the quantum drive, I said. If we can talk to the AI, then she can prove it. She? Nisha said. You call it a she? She, whatever, I said. Just get the drive and interact with the AI and it will explain everything. The crowd had settled, still with angry looks, but not as aggressive, and Nisha glanced at them and back to me. Won't solve it here. We'll take you to the brig for now. I took a deep breath. Whatever happened next, it bought me some time. The armed pirates with Nisha relaxed as well. Now they had some purpose and direction. The pirates grabbed me and ushered me from the dining hall into the main passageway, Nisha following behind. They took me around the corner and then up a ramp through a doorway that led to a passageway with a rounder shape and grayer colors. We got to a wide cargo door. With all the turns, I lost my sense of direction, and when the double doors slid apart, we entered a cargo area dimly lit with shipping crates along the right and boxes of different size to the left, an aisle through the middle. Nisha must have noticed my frown of confusion. She said, "This hold was designed to have access to space, but with our mods, we converted it into storage and the Brig." I saw it now, the cargo door 15 meters wide and at least 3 high on the far end that had different shades and quality of scrap metal welded together as a wall. We neared one of the big crates on the right. They each had open areas on the side covered in bars. Nisha took out a flat disc and swiped it across the rectangular electric lock. It beeped and the bars opened. "Get in," she said. The pirates leveled their rifles and I felt obeying was a good idea. One of the pirates searched me, a man who definitely hadn't washed in a while, and I winced and forced down a gag reflex. He took back the communicator Nisha had given me and left me with nothing. The bars closed me in and I stood there while the pirates left. The floor shook, a slight movement in my feet. Was it the engines? "Nisha," I said. She stopped, and when the others waited too, she waved them on. She faced me, her brow raised. "We're breaking orbit," she said. "I have other jobs to do around here." We were alone now. What could I say? She had no reason to believe me. My AI, she uncovered some data from the IIF that they were making up the plague with the colonists, using it as an excuse to keep control. Her face didn't flinch, didn't change. "That doesn't surprise you, does it?" I said. Her hands went on her hips. "No. Most of the people on this ship are survivors of attacks from the IIF. We know how much they lie." Images of the pirates with different limbs missing and bionic parts flashed in my mind. "You worked for them, didn't you know?" I grunted. Like most citizens, I thought we were protecting us from a plague. Not until Jen told me she found some data that it was all a ruse. No, I didn't know. I leaned on the bars, whispering, my voice echoing in the cargo hold. "That's why we need to find her." "Jen," she said. "Her? The AI?" "Yeah." "And you think this AI is on the drive?" "I couldn't find her on the ship when I looked," I said. "She must be. God, I hope she's there." The tremors of the engines increased, I guess since we pushed through the atmosphere and into orbit. Nisha's eyes narrowed. "You really think the AI can prove the Fed is making it all up?" I nodded. She stood motionless for a few moments, stretching into an awkward pause. Slag it all, she grabbed her communicator off her belt. She pressed a button and put it up to her mouth. "Schultz." "Yeah, boss?" A man's voice. "You get that quantum drive from the Phoenix wreckage?" Clattering noises over the tiny speaker. "Yeah, boss." "You have time to look at it, analyze it?" "Yep," Schultz said. "It's empty." Nisha's brow creased. "Empty?" "Blank." "What happened?" "Not sure, boss. It's strange. Was protected in the platinum box and everything. Maybe a security measure to wipe it when shot at?" Nisha turned to me with a questioning look. I shook my head. "No, it acts like a black box, a record of the mission. You would need a code to get into the drive, but it wouldn't be empty." "Where did it go?" she asked. "You said you could find it on our ship." I shrugged. "No, I didn't find it." Putting the communicator to her lips, she said, "Thanks, Schultz. Take another look at it, would you, just in case?" More clunking noises. "Will do, boss." Nisha lowered the communicator. "If she's not on the ship and not on the drive..." She stopped to let me finish. "I don't know. Maybe another network that survived on the planet?" I clicked my tongue. "The colony ships. She found readings she thought were the colony ships. Maybe she hacked into them. We have to go back to the planet." She chuckled. "Slag that. Captain won't do it. This planet is marked by the feds. They could return with more ships." "But Jen is the one who knows what to look for. We have to get her to the core." "The core?" Nisha laughed and pointed at my head. "Maybe your drive was erased. That's never going to happen." I couldn't give up. "Let me talk to the captain. We need to..." The compartment went black. The tremors in my feet ceased. "What the pulse crap?" Nisha cried out. A red emergency light came on in the corner, giving us some measure of visibility. A voice came over the intercom at the wall near the double doors we had entered. I'm sorry, Captain. It took me longer than I estimated to get control over the ship. I smiled. Jin. Yes, what would you like to do next? If she had control over the ship, we could use it to escape on a smaller vessel, like a long-range shuttle. But getting to the core might be more difficult than I imagined. Having the help of a group of people used to getting around the IAF might be an advantage if we could work together. Nisha looked from me to the speaker near the door, her mouth agape. My smile broadened. I'll tell you what we're gonna do.
Scene.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
So the setup is there for Mitch to have control. Now, he was very out of control in that last chapter. He didn't have any choices left to him. Those choices were up to other people. And now he gets the choice of what to do next.
That's right. So here are the choices.
Okay.
All right. Now that he and Jin have control over the ship, is he going to use control of the ship to try and escape on a smaller vessel of some sort?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he going to try to get to the captain and get the pirates to help him on his mission to get to the core?
Nice.
So either try to escape on a smaller ship, because the Phoenix ship is gone. They're going to have to find somewhere else if they use... Or are they going to try to get the pirates to help him get to the core somehow?
Yeah, it'll take a lot of convincing.
I think so.
Yeah, especially with the way Nisha was laughing at some of his quandaries. She's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But I like it. So do they stay a solo act, or do they try to make this an ensemble cast?
Yeah. Right?
Awesome. So, again, as always, you guys can find your options for voting in two places. On Facebook, we have a Facebook group that's dedicated to the voters group. And if you want to stay updated with that, go join the voters group. You can go to our Facebook page, Brew and Ink, and then go click under the tab that says groups. And you can click on the group that says Brew and Ink Voters Group. That's where we put up the polls there. And then the other poll is always on Instagram. I think a lot of people use Instagram nowadays. It's easier for them.
We have been getting more responses on Instagram. Yeah, I think that's good.
So yeah, it'll be up there. We like to give you guys a few days to try and listen to it, and then you can go vote. This week we try to give it a little bit extra, so that we had a tie going on.
We did have a tie going on.
We just couldn't suss it out. We needed to get a few more votes, someone to break it, other than ourselves. But yeah, it was good. So you guys go out and vote. The section.
I like where it's going.
Yeah. I like the Divergent path too. So
good.
We'll put that little teaser out there.
I'm waiting for it.
But yeah,
like it, share it.
Yeah.
Subscribe, all of it.
And as always, raise a glass to inspiration and stay inspired, guys. All right, Liam, you have to sit right here, and you have to say it into this microphone. You have to say it nice and loud. All right, tell us the story. Halloween Story by Liam Folletti.
Pumpkins are orange, but at this type of year, they're not orange at all because it's scary Halloween. And there's no trick-or-treaters this year because it's this time that pumpkins are black.
Ooh, black pumpkins?
Instead of orange.
Is that what scared away the trick-or-treaters?
Yes.
And what do the black pumpkins do that the orange pumpkins don't?
The black pumpkins, when people carve them, they grow back the black pumpkin.
Whoa, so they regrow after you carve into them? Do they grow bigger?
Yes.
Or do they grow new ones?
They also grow new ones.
Oh, they multiply too?
That would be scary.
And also they grow all around your house, and then they turn your house into pumpkins.
How would we escape something like that?
You would have to carve all the pumpkins, and then the black pumpkins will no longer be here anymore.
So who saves us from these black pumpkins?
You would have to do it yourself.
Oh, so we have to be our own heroes.
Yep.
And what's the best way to get rid of these pumpkins? Once you cut them up, do you turn them into pumpkin pies or pumpkin cookies?
Black pumpkin pie.
If you eat those black pumpkins, then you'll get poisoned.
Oh my goodness. That is scary. No wonder why the trick-or-treaters aren't going around. How can we save Halloween?
You'd have to put tons of candy in the pumpkins.
Ah, that's how you do it. Everyone has to take their candy that they were going to give.
I'm a black pumpkin.
Oh no, you have to give Mr. Oh, that's why he's sucking on the candy. It's keeping him from being poisoned. So the moral of the story is this year at Halloween, make sure you fill your pumpkins full of candy so they don't turn into black poison pumpkins.
And also make sure to, if you don't, then you don't make it into pumpkin pie or into pumpkin cookies or not all make it into anything.
Happy Halloween.
Goodbye.